Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Parenting Hour. You're tuned into Unity FM 93.5 here in Birmingham and 105.1 in Luton, and all our listeners that are tuned in the West Midlands, down south, up north. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you're having a good day, inshallah, and that your new year is going well. We promised you that in the beginning of the new year that we'll be looking at how to form goals and achieve goals and look at lives and how we can have more of a peaceful life. And I am keeping to my word because I've got a guest with me today. Her name is Gregory, and she is from Peacemakers, and we're going to be talking about that. And it's a topic really that I think you will really like, listeners, and that you can tell your friends, your neighbours, your relatives about it, and how we can have a more peaceful environment, and what do we mean by peace and how we look at peace. But it's a lovely way of starting 2020. We think already 2020, you know, I can remember it's only feel like a few years ago we had the millennium, and now we're 20 years later. Where did those 20 years go to? I don't know, but we need to be talking more about peace and how we can move forward together in our communities and come together with and overcome those negative issues that are happening in society at the moment and be more peaceful. So with that, I'd like to welcome Anna. Welcome,
Hello.
Anna, to the studio.
Thank you. Hello.
You're welcome. Lovely to have you here. And you're from Peacemakers.
Yes.
So how long have you been with Peacemakers?
I've been with Peacemakers 8.5 years. It's coming up for 9 years in May.
Wow.
It's a job that I moved to Birmingham for. So yes, and a job that, you know, without sounding too grand, has made quite a big impact on my life. Has changed the way that I think about peace and conflict, and changed how I approach lots of different situations in my life. So a big job and a big life change for me 9 years ago.
Wonderful. And it sounds very lovely and peaceful. I'm just having this image, and maybe it's a romantic kind of image, that you are so peaceful in yourself, because you come across it like this, and your life must be so peaceful, and everybody around you must be so peaceful, and what a wonderful career it is.
Oh,
and the life to have.
Kathleen, imagine if that was true. Well, funnily enough, I mean, one of the questions that we ask lots of people when we talk to them is, what does peace mean to you? And that question is often met with a bit of silence, because we're not always asked what that means. So it takes a bit of thinking and, you know, a bit of searching to understand that. And we hear some quite typical responses. So peace might mean something related to the spirit, or to faith, or to sitting quietly, or meditating. But that's not what peace means to me. My peace is actually quite noisy. My peace is actually quite chaotic and quite fun. I feel most connected to myself, most peaceful, and most at my best when I'm with a group of people, usually young people, and we're laughing and we're figuring stuff out and we're learning, and it's noisy, and it doesn't always look like a traditional peaceful, quiet environment. My peace is quite hectic.
Well, that's great news for a lot of our parents listening in, who are probably experiencing those hectic lives and have children that are causing noise and maybe breaking things, or in the home, or damaging things, or having situations outside the home that are not so quiet and peaceful. Or they might have teenagers as well that are challenging boundaries, and it might feel, even though they might be showing it inside themselves, they're grating themselves, you know, and how can I have more peaceful environments? So it's great news for them that peace is not always quiet and tranquil, and it's really that it can be noisy, and it can be fun.
Yeah, and I suppose, like with Peacemakers, we do a lot of work in schools, and there is a perception in some schools with some teachers that a peaceful classroom is a learning classroom where everyone is quietly getting on with their work and silently doing some writing. But we like to challenge that, you know, that learning about yourself, learning socially, learning about your emotions, it's not always quiet. And sometimes if you walk past one of our sessions in a classroom, is quite noisy, and, you know, it doesn't look very peaceful from the outside, but I think if you'd speak to those children, they would say that they are engaged, laughing, connected, working with others, and that brings out a sense of peace for them.
Wonderful. That sounds really good. And we all have different perceptions, I suppose, of what is peace, informed by our own way that we were growing up, and communities, societies, faiths that we're in. So everybody probably have a different definition, I suppose, really, for peace.
And we don't ever define it. You know, your peace is different to my peace, and that's okay. And I've actually brought with me some words that some young people, some teenagers have said in response to the question, what does peace mean to you? So one of our youth coordinators, Joel, has been going out working in secondary schools around Birmingham, and he asks them, what does peace mean to you? And these are some of their responses. So peace is sticking to the speed limit. So that's quite a law-abiding one. Peace is where everyone comes together. Peace is the library. Peace is a nice feeling. Peace is listening to music. And peace is when it's dark. So it's quite varied, and just different. And youth clubs come up quite a lot, which is a challenge, you know, for children, young people here in Birmingham to be able to access, if that's where they see and experience peace, and their youth clubs are being closed down, then we're, you know, it's hard for them to find that peace then.
And actually, in those words that you said, you didn't mention home, which I know homes, I suppose, are a difficult place, but we would love to see homes as a place of peace, to start there, to know about peace, to set the seeds or plant the seeds there and nourish that peace in a way so that it can go to other places. I mean, here there's another sheet. They've got home and church, mosque and school, my uncle's house. So that says there that there's a familial relationship that feels really, you know, positive and peaceful for that young person who answered in that way. So we're interested in this question because you see people we can kind of categorise these responses. We might see a sense of what we define as like inner peace, so peace on the inside, a sense of well-being, and then some outer peace, so being connected to the community, to your friends, and also there's a sense of peace between, so our peace between ourselves, how we get on together and how we work together. And they're all very different categories, I suppose, you know. And if you look at peace, and you mentioned there in the mosque and our relationship with God, that's very individual, and a strive we all have in our lives to, each one of us categorises different, and how do we accomplish that and strive for that with the worldly efforts and everything taking parts of us and bits of us away, and life being so quick. We've just come here from another meeting and we were just saying about the time going so quickly. Our lives are so quick pace at the moment, to even have time to reflect on, and time to meditate, and time to think about ourselves. And peace it's a lovely concept, peace, and how we should all find time for that.
But that's it often stays up there as a concept, you know, and we don't give the time and the space to really dig and sit with it and try and understand what it means. And it was a journey for me to understand that this wasn't language that I was used to. I come from education, I've come from supporting young people, so, you know, I was nervous of this word, and I thought it meant candles and, you know, sitting and being quiet, and that's not me. But I've learned that, my peace is about being with people. That's where I feel nourished and where I feel close. And I like to laugh, and I like to have fun, and I like to, you know, that's where I feel at my best. So yes, it means different things to different people, but we've got to figure that out for ourselves and give time for that. And also, peace isn't something that you can kind of arrive at. It isn't this state of nirvana that suddenly you've reached. We are always working towards it. And in today's society where, you and I are rushing from meetings and trying to find car parking spaces and answer phones, then to give time to this parallel journey is difficult.
It is difficult. And I'm glad that you're doing this and talking about this. So Peacemakers, which is a great name for the organisation, but probably that's what you are also as individuals working there. You are peacemakers in the work you do. Tell us a little bit more about Peacemakers.
Sure. So Peacemakers is an educational charity that was set up in 1987, I think, by a group of Quakers in Birmingham, the West Midlands Quaker Peace Education Project it was called. And it had a vision that we can't start young enough in skilling up young people with the skills and the behaviours to resolve their own conflicts for themselves and to create peace as they see it. So most of our work is working in schools, training up children in the foundational peace skills of communication, empathy, listening, understanding, so that when they come into conflict, which is going to happen because that's life, that they are given a sort of a set of experiences and tools and skills that they can use to help resolve those conflicts better than if they hadn't come across them in the first place. So we train children in mediation, so they can go out and mediate for other young people on the playground, because research shows that young people want to, with the lower level problems, to go to other young people rather than always go to an adult to help them solve problems. And what a fantastic experience for a young person to to sit and show that they can listen and support another young person without providing a solution, but
yes, and be able to get solutions. So
amazing.
What wonderful, even just doing it on a one-to-one basis, the skills they're learning, it's a foundation for life. And we're talking about first the communication skills, the empathy, all of these skills, they're transferable skills. They need them everywhere they go, especially they need them when they become parents. So we're saying if they can learn them very young, it's part of themselves. And then those conflict resolution skills, that is wonderful. So you're enabling people or young people to find their own solutions to their problems, which again, if you start using that language and that comes into the house, it's a conflict resolution house. So it's not a shouting house to solve problems or a quiet house that people go away to their rooms and don't discuss things. It's a solution focused way of
and what we hear sometimes when we do our peer mediation training, that the young people, that the training normally lasts for 3 days, and we leave a gap as well because it's quite intensive. So say we've done training on a Thursday and then a Friday, and then we come back after the weekend on a Monday, and on Monday usually some child will come up to us and say, I did a mediation with my brother. I realised that my little brother and sister were fighting, or my mum and dad were arguing about this, and I said, I've got a script that can help. And they've sat and mediated with their parents, and I mean, I don't know how that went down or how effective that was, but how empowered that young person feels to have this tool to be able to use in their own environment at home to say, I've got something that can help us sort out our argument. I think it must be amazing for the family.
And just to be able to recognise that, and maybe even do some things of listening, just listening to each other, because we often don't listen, we don't hear what's going on. The conversations happen and you're preparing what to say rather than listening to what has been said.
Absolutely. Something that I heard, I'm not sure where it came from, but it's really helped me with the work that I do, is noticing if am I listening to respond? So if I'm in a conversation with somebody, am I waiting for that gap, that moment that I can jump in and respond? Or am I listening to understand? Am I listening to really get what that person is trying to say and what they're trying to communicate? And listening to understand is a skill, something to practice. Yeah.
Skills for life for these young people that may go into a career with this, but whatever career they go in, it doesn't have to be a mediation career, they will still need these skills. There is lots of issues, conflicts, misunderstanding, miscommunication between people, and these are basic foundation skills that are not taught in schools now. So it's great that you're coming into schools and that schools are investing in this.
And yes, we've got a slightly different project as we're working in secondary schools on our project called Minus Violence Plus Peace, and that's trying to challenge the idea that young people seem to be very confident talking about conflict and violence, and maybe experiencing youth violence. So how about having a conversation about peace? And that's quite difficult to start that conversation, but young people really want to talk about it. And again, we're not telling them what peace means, but there isn't much space in our time and our day to have these conversations about what peace means to young people, and in particular to teenagers. It can be a really, really eye-opening conversation with, you know, your teenagers to ask them what peace means to them.
Listeners, there's something that you can be asking your children, your teenagers, actually, and maybe feedback to us. Ring the studio or email the studio in with your response. So the phone number, I'm sure you know it, 0121 772 8892 or info@unityfm.net, and we would love to hear your responses. What does peace mean to your children? Actually, even for yourself, what does peace mean for you? And I'm sure Anna and myself could continue these conversations another time. We could gather these responses in and go through it and have a conversation. Maybe,
be great.
Yeah, it would be wonderful to do this another time and build on this, because I think we do need to be flipping the coin a bit. You know, we so much is taking our attention with the gang violence and what's happening and things out there, and we know that that's not happening to all the youth. But what is the other side of that? What can they do? How can we have more organisations like yourselves doing conflict resolution, doing mediation? Because you were saying that when you were talking about the mediation, I was smiling, because not just those skills of language skills, but the social skills that they learn, the manners that they learn. You know, as you're asking people, please, can we sit here and talk here? Are you okay to this? Your whole language is changing.
It's very developed social skills that they learn. And actually, what I'm always impressed by is that young people take to this so easily. And it's, you know, don't tell anyone, but they take to it much more easily than adults might do. But yeah, absolutely. You know, you give a young person instruction. How would you like to be greeted at the door? How would you like to be invited to come and sit down? How would you like to be welcomed into a mediation, accepting that, you know, emotions are running high and you don't want to be sat in the same room as this person? And they just fly with it. They instinctively know what to do. And to have that natural ability celebrated is really important, because there's not an awful lot of space in our curriculum at the moment to celebrate those people skills, those soft skills, those skills, you know, that you can't get a GCSE for, but are still absolutely vital.
Yeah, it is so true. And as you were saying that, I was remembering some work I did in schools a few years ago with similar work like this, teaching communication skills, social skills. And I had a couple of teachers that were hugging me. And I remember one in particular who was going through a divorce. And just doing the communication and the empathy meant so much for her, to actually think about her own situation and what she was going through, because she was in a very tough situation, but probably was responsive, reactive, rather than taking a time to calm and think, and then how can I use these skills or learn these skills and use them in a different way.
I like your analogy of flipping the coin, because here in Birmingham and London, Manchester also, you know, we're hearing so much about knife crime and gang violence and youth violence, and when we want to have conversations with our young people, you know, they're hearing that and seeing that all the time, and they welcome the opportunity to flip the coin and to be celebrated for all the brilliant stuff that they do, the volunteering that they do, the support in their friendships that they do, the creativity that they have. And we need to make space for that. We need to make space for young people to have those conversations and those thoughts, just as much as what we naturally want to do, which is keep them safe, but just be aware of how much we're, you know, giving one side of information. There's so much more we can celebrate and talk to our young people about.
If parents were to listening to this and they were saying, this is great, this all sounds wonderful, I really want to reach this, but where do I start? What would you say first would be the starting points for them to come down to that level of the child, and where would they start?
Well, I quite often I hear about discussions that happen post-war. So a huge argument has happened, or a behaviour has happened, for the last time, and finally they've got to get round, and have this discussion about X, Y, or Z. So I say have it in a time of peace, not in a time of post-war conflict. So whenever it feels good in your family, whether you eat round the table, or you do story time, or you walk, or whatever it is, if you sense that is a peaceful time, if you're making dinner together or drinking hot chocolate together, then gently raise this conversation. It's got to be during a time of peace rather than a reactive post-war conflict. And be curious. Be curious about this young person's developing brain and their thoughts. And try not to judge. So, be curious about their thoughts, and try not to just shut it down. You shouldn't think like that, or that's not right, because your young person will shut down and stop talking. But, if you can be saying things like, oh, say some more about that, or that's interesting, how did you come to that idea, or where did that come from? And if it's done with a sense of genuine curiosity, this young person generally will be like, oh, mum and dad are interested in me, or uncle's interested in me. This is great. I want to say some more. I have value. They're interested in my ideas.
Wow. So it's really just taking, when you describe it, they're so easy as taking a time that you are together in a nice situation, have some family time together, either with the family or one-to-one. And bring it up then. Yeah. And listen to them then,
and not
in a
be
non-judgmental way.
Afraid if it gets shot down, or, thrown back at you the first time. This might be the first time you've had this type of conversation, so judge it. Judge that it might not last for a full 5 minutes. You might need to come back to it in a week or so. I used to support some young people with who'd experienced homelessness, and quite often some of the best conversations we'd have about how they wanted to move forward was in the car. I wasn't looking at them. I wasn't over across a table, with my pen and my clipboard or anything like that. We were in a car looking at the scenery, and lots of things would come out in those car journeys. So, look for the unexpected peaceful moments where you can have a really engaged conversation.
Very good advice. I know for myself, with my own children, the car is great. Really wonderful way, because actually one, they can't escape. So you're there and driving in it, but because there's so much going on around you, and because that face-to-face can be threatening, because they are looking at your reactions, and even though you may tell yourself, I'm going to be very good, I'm going to listen, your face is reacting, your body is reacting, and they're reading your body language.
Oh yes.
And they can see that reaction. So something like that is good indeed. Or cooking is another good thing, when you're doing something together, and having those conversations. Wonderful. So is this what Peacemakers then do as an organisation?
So we predominantly work in schools to support both the children and the staff to develop what we call peacemaking behaviours. So that's how we might operate in the classroom, in the corridors, on the playground. We do some teacher training. And we work with young people as well. But we've also started doing some work with some women's groups, with some young people's groups working outdoors as well. So we're developing outside of the structure of schools, which is quite new for us.
Wonderful. Sounds very exciting indeed. And if parents wanted to find out more about what you're doing, or wanted to tell their schools about what you're doing, do you have a website?
Yep. I think we come up now if you just put in Peacemakers, but we are www.peacemakers.org.uk, and we're based in central Birmingham, but we work across the West Midlands.
Wonderful. There's just an opportunity, listeners, to actually contact them if you think this would be valuable for your school, because maybe there's a situation in your school and they've never heard of this before. And some of our listeners up and down the country although there's no Peacemakers there, they may want to contact you for some advice.
Sure, and there are similar organisations. There are, there's some there's one in Brighton, there's one in Sheffield that we know of, there's some in London. So we can certainly put you in touch with similar organisations.
Brilliant indeed. And would this be a paid service for the school?
We are we do. We charge schools, but we also fundraise in the background to try and reduce the cost. So yes, we operate a bursary pot for our work with children in schools, so that the schools can apply to subsidise the work.
Excellent. So parents may be very interested. This is even some for our home school parents may be interested in how to contact you and get some peace initiatives in there, and how to develop that concept and spread it out to more, because they often meet, I know, in different parks and things, which looks like lovely settings to actually be talking about peace and peace situations. So it'd be really good. So it's that website, Peacemakers, you're saying, that they can go to. Brilliant. We're going to come back after the commercial break and talk more to Anna about this and how you can contact her, and more about peace, inshallah. With listeners, as we go into the commercial break, maybe you can think of how can you have a little bit of peace over this break. What can you do? How can you reflect on yourself? And just, even if it's only 30 seconds, but have some peace time with yourself, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Parenting Hour. You're tuned into Unity FM 93.5. My name is Kathleen, and we finished the first half of the show with Anna talking about peacemakers and peace. We're having a lovely peaceful time here in the studio. MashaAllah, it's really great. And I hope you had a little bit of peace over the commercial break, whether that was just a couple of minutes reflecting on your own thoughts, or whether you managed to go and make a cup of tea for yourself, or whether you tuned into something different on the radio just for those couple of minutes as you're driving home, so that you're thinking about it or reframing your thoughts in a different way. Whatever it is, we'd love to hear from you, actually, about what is your idea of peace and what have you done and what ideas you have. So please do phone in or email in. You know the numbers: 0121 772 8892. I was getting nearly confused there for a second. So that's 772-8892, or email in at info@unityfm.net, and we can pass on this to Anna and invite her back for another show where we'll do a live show the next time, and we'll have more open conversations about this and what people think, our listeners think about peace. What is peace? So we were talking there a little bit before the break about skills or practical skills for parents and ideas that parents can take away from today's show, really, because this new year now they're trying to make New Year's resolutions, change things in the home, got great plans. I'm really going to do this. I really want a more peaceful home. I want to get to know my children better, have them to have more peaceful lives internally and externally. And you mentioned something about the environment there that you were setting up for that, but what else can parents do? What else could they do to have this?
So a top tip that I have found useful in my personal life is revisiting and rethinking my questions that I ask. So quite often, if something has gone wrong, so let's say something has happened at school and a parent has got wind of it, so there's been a phone call home or some kind of communication home, and there is likely to be a confrontation. And the question that you might want to ask is why did that happen? Why did this incident happen? And I appreciate that's what you want to know. You want to know why this incident unfolded in the way that it did. But the why question is going to not get you the outcome that you're looking for. It does something funny to the brain. When we are asked why, we feel judged and we could feel attacked even. Yeah,
it's very confrontational, isn't it? Why you did this? Why did you put on that colour?
Why are you wearing that? Why did you make that phone call? Why did you go out with that person on that day? it's quite blamey. It feels quite judgmental. And if we feel like that, if we feel like we're being judged or attacked or thought badly by somebody, then we will generally go on the defence or we'll shut down. Mm-hmm. So you might see in your young person a shrug of the shoulders and no, I don't know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's them shutting down communication. Because they feel judged, or they might say, well, it was because this and this and this, and they'll go on the attack. You're not going to get anywhere when the brain is functioning in that particular way. So you can change your questions and you can just ask, I've had this piece of information, what's happening? What's going on for you? Can you tell me more about this, please? What's happening is a much gentler way of them being able to describe what happened. And also what you're doing there is you're showing them a different, you're showing a caring aspect by saying, I'm interested in you, and I'm not happy with this, but we need to get to the bottom of it, but I'm valuing you as a person, so you tell me from your point of view, from your side, what happened, what went on. And I think you'll get a much different response than if you ask, why did you do that?
You do definitely. Parents, there's a great tip for you, because these, I call these wisdom finding questions. Really, it's a wise way of getting much more information and opening up things rather than using that word why.
Yes.
That really can be closure very quickly.
And we when we're working with children, we sometimes talk about questions that can close doors or questions that can open doors. And when you're in mediation, you want as many open doors as possible. So your closed door questions are your typical closed questions, which are why, did you do that? Can you explain yourself? And they're closed because the answerer can only give a one-word answer back. Yes, no, don't know. But if you ask open questions, what's happening? How is that for you? What's going on? The responder has to do a bit of work. They have to respond and give you a bit more information. So they open doors to communication.
Brilliant. So it's not just finding the environment, which is really important, and having that setting that is not threatening, and you're non-judgmental, but it is also what you ask and how you ask that.
Definitely. And our work, so this Mindless Violence Plus Peace project we've got going in secondary schools at the moment, we are changing the classroom. So we're working intensively with some young people, and we're asking for the tables to be removed. We're asking them to set up their chairs in a circle. And this can be quite threatening for some young people because they have to face each other. But we want to get the lines of communication flowing and open. And we're asking lots and lots of open questions, and we're letting people talk uninterrupted and not be challenged until they're done. And actually, for a young person, that's amazing to speak and be listened to until they're done, rather than be told that's enough, stop, or that's not right. So we're seeing quite a lot of information coming from these young people when we create a space
for them
to talk.
So we're creating a space, we're asking in the right way, and we're allowing time for that answer to come back, even though as a parent you mightn't always like the answer. It might not be what you expect, but you are listening for the conversation, not actually thinking of a response that you're giving. And just
don't try and catch them out. Just let them talk.
And be there and just listen to what they're saying. So important.
But
really.
It's hard. I also understand it's very hard to do. But it's, we learn to cook. We learn to drive. It's a skill. We can learn to listen.
And when parents learn these skills, actually it can be integrated so much into their lives that they forget about the other way, and their lives run on these skills. And soon your children would be adults, and you will need these skills to communicate them with them as adults, and they will respect that even more. Well, for any other tips? I know we're coming towards the end of today. Today went very quickly for us indeed, and we have a lot more to talk about, but running out of time. So maybe time is something that parents should be aware of.
It is. I think, like you mentioned earlier, our time seems to be running away with us in today's society, and we move so fast, and social media moves so fast, and we're often feel like we're responding to things. And a lot of what we're trying to do in schools is slow things down, slow conversations down, slow our responses down, and really be mindful of the response that we want to give. So if we have to, phone a parent because an incident has happened, breathe, stop, think about what you want to communicate, and be prepared for what might come the other way. So yes, look to slow down, to slow down as much as we can.
Great, wonderful tips there. Thank you so much for coming in, and we hope that our listeners are actually taking on board what is peace, and they're going to reflect that back into the studio so we can have another conversation that in a few weeks' time
so great.
See how they're getting on with these tips that you've given them now to introduce peace into their lives, and have a New Year's resolution about how maybe either themselves as a person, how they can be more peaceful themselves, whatever that means for them, or within their families.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to hear those.
I'd love to as well, indeed, and I look forward to having you back again. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for giving up the time, indeed, and it was great having today's conversations. So we were talking there about skills parents need, and we talked about the environment and having a nice environment, having do something together, do something fun. When my children were growing up, I found that they opened up more after we had a little game of football in the garden, and then when they came in from that, they were ready to talk about something rather than bringing home everything and straight into questions being asked when they came home. So that was very useful for us as a family. It was a great time actually playing football matches together, very competitive as well, between the boys and the girls, and a good family time to be able to do, just because we usually do it before we come in to eat, so then you're coming in and eating together, and there's a different it's like being in the car in a way, there's an opportunity there to ask more questions. So we said the environment is really important. They said the questions, not to ask why, to have more open questions to be able to get a response. And you were talking there about listening.
Yes.
So can we talk a little bit more, and maybe give parents a little bit more tips about how to listen?
Sure. Listening needs to take place with the whole body. So depending on who you're listening to, they may be comfortable or uncomfortable with you facing them. So if you sense that that's uncomfortable, then get in the car, go for a drive, play football, go for a walk. Side by side listening is fine, but some people like to be looked at. And we describe eye contact, and we describe it as gentle. So look at the person, don't stare at them, and be comfortable to look away or look down. It shows that you're thinking. Put your phone away. Remove the obstacles. If you are sitting at a table, sit side by side if you can, and angle yourself so you can face that person. Put your phone away, and yes, if there's a kind of mess on the table, then just clear it up. It shows that you're valuing and you're respecting that person. And a tip that has come to me, or feels most unlocking, what do I mean by that? As in, somebody's starting to talk and I feel like we're getting somewhere, and then there's something that you can do that just unlocks it, and for that person, and they start talking, is to show some empathy. Now, this is difficult if you're hearing difficult information from your young person about something that has gone wrong, and you're trying to, not make judgment and not comment on it. A step further is to be empathetic. Now, that's not to condone what has happened. That's not to say you did the right thing or that's okay. But that's to recognise that they're going through a difficult time. They're going through a difficult time talking to you. This is probably a big step. And they've been through something quite difficult before. So recognising that sounds tough. That sounds to me like you were quite brave in that moment. It sounds to me like this is quite difficult for you to talk about that. Once that person hears that you are empathising with their difficulty, that's the unlocking moment. And that's the moment they go, oh my goodness, it's been so difficult, you have no idea, and so and so and so and so and so and so, and they talk and talk and talk and talk. So yeah, if you can, demonstrating some empathy and being empathetic to their difficulty will push the conversation on more than you can imagine.
Great, that was wonderful examples you gave there of empathy indeed, and how to describe empathy, because it's really hard to empathise always, and sometimes we may be thrown by what's coming out, and how can I really try and get this person to open up and talk more and show that I'm there with them. It is hard. It's a hard skill to learn.
It's so hard, and it's hard as a parent because you want to be teaching them about life, and you know, they might not have made a great choice, but that's okay. You can say, I don't love the decision that you've made. I don't think that was a good idea, but I'm really proud of you for talking to me, and I can see that was really tough, and that you're having it's hard for you to talk to me now, but I really appreciate it. You know, can we carry on? Just valuing them as a human being is going to open them up.
And actually, you should, as a parent, if you've gone to that stage, value yourself that they have come to you to share this, which is probably has been on their mind and affected them for days, weeks.
Yeah, I could imagine as well is if they've got a concern about a friend of theirs and they, you know, something might be happening and they want to check it with you, but they might be nervous of what your reaction might be, you know, so one of their friends might be making some decisions that aren't too healthy or a bit unsafe, and they want to check it with you. You know, your reaction inside might be, oh my goodness, don't do that, and don't see that friend ever again, and you know. But actually, if you can get them talking and get them to problem solve it for themselves and see some of the dangers that might be involved in what's happening, that is a greater life lesson that they can carry with them than if you tell them not to do something.
And when they come up, I find when they come up with their own solutions to that, their own problem-solving solutions, because they've come up with it, they're proud of themselves. And they will do that.
They're more likely to do it. They're much more likely to do it if they've come up with it themselves. I mean, I'm the same. You know, if I've come up with something, I'm going to do it. If my 75-year-old dad tells me to do it, I'm not going to do it.
It's that's how life works, and it's great if we get those skills in from the beginning in children and appreciate that, because parents, as much as they want to protect children as well and surround them with cotton wool to keep them the environment peaceful and everything around them peaceful, life is life. They're not going to be there the whole time. There will be issues and problems and situations where the young people will have to think for themselves and make their own decisions, make their own snappy decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's really good. You know, we need to prepare our young people to live in the real world, and we want them to make informed, safe decisions when they're on their own, because you're not always going to be around. So you know, we say that to teachers as well, that they're not always going to be around to make those decisions for those young people. So it may feel difficult and a bit sort of, you know, messy and wrangly, but allow them to figure that solution out for themselves if they can. Sometimes we need to step in. I understand that as well.
Of course, every situation needs to be rationalised in a way that I was just thinking when you're saying about stepping in there, and I was talking about this recently to somebody, I can't remember now who it was to, but saying these skills like this are wonderful, but there is times if there was a fire in the building, we wouldn't be sitting down and negotiating around it. We need to get out straight away. There is times that parents need to be in there and know about safety and safeguarding and looking after themselves and things. But in general, we need to have an environment where we're encouraging and starting from a young age. I'm sure it's easier to do that from a younger age rather than starting in the teenage years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So parents, maybe now this may be something they want to take on as New Year's resolution, that they find some time for themselves first. So if we just talk about parents, to find that inner peace or that peace themselves, whether it's once a week, just to do something for themselves, but labelling it to themselves, this is my peace time.
Yeah, my peaceful act.
Yes, my peaceful act. And then feed that back to us, as we said. Please phone in on 0121 772 8892 and tell us what is your peaceful act. And then introducing more peace into your home, which will filter out then to communities and whatever else after that. But having that more peaceful time in your home and what you're doing and how you're going to have a New Year's resolution around that. What can we do as a family to have more peace? That sounds interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing what the feedback will be from parents. Indeed.
Well, you've inspired me to think about my home and what I'm going to and what I'll do this evening. So, my own peaceful thoughts and how I can affect the people at home too.
Wonderful. That sounds really good. I'm looking forward to it. So listeners, do tune into us next week where we have another topic, but please, in the interim, ring in or email in, because we want to know about peace. Inner peace for yourself, or peace for yourself, what does that mean, and for your families. And we want to invite Anna back in a couple of weeks' time when we've had all these phone calls in and all these messages in to discuss this in a bit more depth, inshallah. So please do join into us and do take part in these conversations. Indeed, this is your sessions. We want to give back to you, and next time we'll have Anna on a live show that you can talk directly to her and have more conversations. Thank you so much, Anna, for giving up your time. It was wonderful today talking to you, and I wish you a peaceful new year for yourself and for your family and for everybody around you.
Inshallah,
please God,
thank
inshallah.
you.
Thank you. And listeners, we wish you all also a very peaceful new year, and look after yourselves and take care. And until next week, Assalamu alaikum.
Was a foolish little child, crazy things I used to do, and all the pain I put you through. Mama, now I'm here for you, for all the times I made you cry, the days I told you lies. Now it's time for you to rise, for all the things you sacrificed. Oh, if I could turn back time, rewind, if I could make it undone, I swear that I would make it up to you. Mom, all grown up now, it's a brand new day. I'd like to put a smile on your face every day. Mom, all grown up now, and it's not too late. I'd like to put a smile on your face every day. And now I finally understand your famous line about a day I'd face in time, 'cause now I got a child of mine. And even though I was so bad, I've learned so much from you. Now I'm trying to do it too. Love my kid the way you do. Oh, if I could turn back time, rewind, if I could make it undone, I swear that I would make it up to you. Oh, if I could turn back time, rewind, if I could make it undone, I swear that I would make it up to you. Mom, all grown up now, it's a brand new day. I'd like to put a smile on your face every day. Mom, all grown up now, and it's not too late. I'd like to put a smile on your face every day. You know you are the number one for me. You know you are the number one for me. You know you are the number one for me. Oh, oh, number one for me. You know you are the number one for me. You know you are the number one for me. You know you are the number one for me. Oh, oh, number one for me. There's no one in this world that can take your place. Oh, I'm sorry for ever taking you for granted. Ooh, I will use every chance I get to make you smile whenever I'm around you. Now I will try to love you like you love me. Only God knows how much you mean to me. Oh, if I could turn back time, rewind, if I could make it undone, I swear that I would make it up to you. Mom, all grown up now, it's a brand new day. I'd like to put a smile on your face every day. Mom, all grown up now, and it's not too late. I'd like to put a smile on your face every day. Mom, all grown up now, it's a brand new day. I'd like to put a smile on your face every day. Mom, all grown up now, and when it's not too late. I'd like to put a smile on your face every day. The number one for me, the number one for me, the number one for me, oh, oh, number one for me.
Masisondele, masisondele, phila noxolo yelele.
Subhanallah walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. You can say it once or 100 times or more. You feel a peace inside and it'll open every door. That's the power of remembering Allah. It's the best way to purify your heart, and know you will be loved by the merciful one. 'Cause that's the power of remembering Allah. Subhanallah walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. Subhanallah walhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah wallahu akbar. So much you can gain just by saying those few words. You can renew your faith and be showered in reward. Oh, that's the power of remembering Allah. It's the best way to purify your heart, and know you will be loved by the merciful one. 'Cause that's the power of remembering Allah. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. Subhanallah walhamdulillah,